On the Newman Jets Audio Network, this is the Jetcast, the official podcast of Newman University Athletics, featuring exclusive interviews with coaches, players, administrators, and more. The Jetcast podcast is brought to you by Ascension Via Christi, Donlinger Construction, Mel Hambledon Ford, Eck Agency, Dr. Brennan Lucas and Advanced Orthopedic Associates, Keystone Solid Surfaces, Big Corner Creative, Pepsi, and by iCryo Recovery and Wellness. Here's the voice of the Newman Jets, Blake Cripps.
We are back here on Jetcast number 87. The Newman bowling team is back to work in the second semester. The women in their first season as an NCAA program, and NU Hall of Famer, the only active coach ever inducted into the Newman Hall of Fame. Billy Murphy is here to bring it all down with us and talk about it. What a special honor that is for you to be the only active coach ever inducted. And I know that, coming off of Hall of Fame weekend, just a reminder of that special honor that you have here in the Newman Athletics Hall of Fame.
Yep, pretty cool.
The Newman women coming in with 50 wins, 50 and 25. Match winning streak was ended by Wisconsin Whitewater last time out. Lost by 9 pins, but overall a 6-1 weekend for you guys, and obviously very successful. And I know from chatting with you in the in the hallways, you weren't sure how this first season in the NCAA was going to go, but on the outside, I know that in terms of what we're used to seeing, in terms of records and how everything is structured, it's not what we're used to. It's not familiar, but you hear a record 50 and 25. It sure sounds like you guys are having a lot of success this year.
Yeah, it's been good. The girls they have been very committed to the development of one another, and I'm not sure that we would have guessed that we'd be 50 and 25 at this point, just because it is so new. But the girls have been great. They win most of the matches they should win, and we've had a few upsets too of some pretty powerful programs. So it's been a good start to our year.
We also had a win at the Columbia Saints Invite. So senior Morgan Cooper had a 210 average for you. Second place, she made all tournament team. So how big was Cooper for that in that win?
Yeah, she was great. The interesting part about this season is it's been someone different almost every event.
Sure.
But Morgan was great. She's really starting to throw it good right now, which is a great time to throw it good here, getting towards the end and making a little postseason run. So yeah.
Well, I know in the past, on your women's teams and probably on your men's teams too, and we'll get to the men's team coming up here on this episode 76 of the Jetcast, or beg your pardon, I think it's actually 87, episode 87 of the Jetcast, so I have to write it down. We're going to be joined by Brylee Prockish off of the women's bowling team coming up, and then we'll talk with assistant wrestling coach Tyler Meese to wrap up the show here in a little bit. But I know that in the past you've kind of had that alpha on the team, men's and women's, to kind of be that leader. How different is it for you to feel like you have so much depth, and you have maybe you don't have anybody who can be the number one every match, but you have maybe 3, 4, 5 people that can be the alpha on any given Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, depth is always good.
Sure.
And it has been interesting. Kinsley Morris, a sophomore who did not play a whole lot for us last year, has been wonderful. At the Peacock Classic, she led the event and anchored for maybe the second time in her career, and she was wonderful. So it's coming from everywhere. Addie Schiffelbein bowled great, at one of the first events that we bowled. So, it's good from a perspective that someone has always been bowling well. Picking a lineup and stuff like that, it makes it a little harder because sometimes you're not sure what you have. But it's been great. I mean, the girls have responded to it. They're very self-aware of where we are and what we're doing, and it's been great.
Well, your gentlemen are coming off of top 3 finishes at SWIBC 5 and 6. Mm-hmm. They had the McKendree Baker last week. Yep. How did the Jets fare? Yeah,
we finished in second place. We were third after qualifying. First written, then qualified for the top 8 for match play. We bowled a pretty good first match. We kind of got a pretty good break. We won the third game of a best-of-3 match, 205 to 204. So
wow.
Really close match. And then we bowled Weber International. I think they're ranked second or third in the country. And we swept them 2-0 to set up a championship match with Midland. Another close match. It went to full 3 games. Went down to the 10th frame. And Midland stepped up in the 10th and finished it off. So, but second place, it's while not where we want to be, we want to win tournaments. But the guys were great. And, we're headed in a good direction.
Who are some of the individuals who bowled really well in that event?
That event is a pure Baker tournament, so it's all Baker games, no team games. And again, it comes from different places. Zach Smolin and Noah Akiona, a couple of freshmen, have been really solid in the 4-5 hole for us all year long. But the rest of the guys are bowling good too.
Sure.
Freshman Cole Munley bowled terrific on Saturday. Getting some much needed time on the lanes. He hasn't bowled a whole lot varsity, but he bowled great on Saturday, and he bowled great in the match play portion too. So it's kind of coming from a little bit of everywhere.
Brylee Prockish is going to be joining us here in just a little bit. What's her season been like as a sophomore in your program?
Brylee is a great story. She last year was her first year, and I think she would tell you that she probably wasn't quite ready for this level. But she had a conversation with us shortly after first semester, and she basically just told us she wanted to be great. And she started working her tail off. She started working with our assistant coach, Coach Bandy, and her development has been, quite honestly, it's been incredible. But it says a lot about who she is and how hard a worker she is, because she has gone from not playing at all on varsity to being one of our players that is stepping up. She bowled in the 4-hole at the Saints Classic and threw meaningful shots against good competition, and she stepped up and she did a great job for us.
When you're trying to kind of navigate through here, now that you're more than halfway through your first season as an NCAA program on the ladies' side, what are the main differences between the NCAA and then, of course, the men are still a USBC team?
Yeah. There's lots of differences. In the USBC world, it's just total pins. 2 days of bowling, total pins, whoever has the most wins. On the NCAA side, every game you bowl, whether it's a team game or a Baker match, it's a win or a loss.
Sure.
So the sense of urgency is a little higher on the NCAA side. Coaching decisions have to be made quicker. If someone's struggling in the lineup, you got to get someone in there off the bench to help them out.
It's not like you can just say it's not like golf where you can just, we'll come back tomorrow and if we roll well, it will be fine. There's definitely a time limit, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. And on the NCAA side, your postseason hopes are totally based off that win-loss record. It's not about whether you win tournaments or where you're finishing tournaments. It is totally about the win-loss and the power rankings. So when they go to there's 9 conferences in the country that get auto bids into a 17-team field. So then there's 8 more spots. And it's pretty much right off the power rankings how they do it. And if they have a couple teams that are close, they go to head-to-head record for the year. So it is a much different way for postseason, because on the USBC side, 64 teams go to sectionals. Those 16 teams in each sectionals bowl for 2 days to find out who the top 4 teams are going to be that'll go to nationals. So,
well, in terms of those power rankings on the ladies' side, how are things shaping up here as we get to near the end of the season?
Yeah, they've had 3 updates this year, and our first one we were in 20th, and then we moved into 15th, and last week they just updated it, and we're in 12th in the country.
That sounds good.
It is good.
Okay.
And we try to not focus on those too much, because we're really just trying to get better every day, working towards that goal, and just not focusing on the results, just keep working hard. And, so far the results have paid off due to the hard work.
One thing that I wanted to ask about was your association. Of course, MIAA does not sponsor bowling, so you guys accepted an invitation to join the Great Lakes Valley Conference as a bowling affiliate member. But I noticed that you guys have a lot of matches, 75 matches in your record, none listed as conference matches. How does conference work in the GLVC with bowling? And, I know that there is a GLVC championships event listed. Is it like basketball where you've got a regular season championship and a postseason championship, or is it only just that event to decide the GLVC title?
Yeah, the way the bowling world works is basically it's just you go to the tournaments that you want to go to, so you can kind of build your schedule. But it is really just about the conference championship.
Okay.
There isn't a regular season per se. We have had lots of matches against GLVC teams, but it really just comes down to that conference championship at the end, and trying to win that sucker so you can get the auto berth into the finals.
Well, the women coming up next are going to the Flyer Classic. So what do you want to see out of the ladies in that event?
Just continued growth. Our ladies have been really determined on getting better each day, like I've been saying, and they're just really focused on that. But the Flyer Classic is going to be a pretty darn good field. McKendree is in that, the number one ranked team in the country. I think there's 6 or 7 teams that are in the top 20
which is a
that event.
GLVC, probably the favorite to win the GLVC title.
Yeah, they are, no doubt. Yep.
And then for the men, they've got a week off, but Hoosier Classic coming back on February 18th and 19th. So what do the men need to do to take care of business at the Hoosier Classic?
Yeah, kind of same thing. Got to get better. We got 2 weeks to practice and get better.
It's hard when you've been bowling well, but then coach comes in and says, well, you guys did a great job. You got second or you won. But now you have to do even better than that. Yeah,
well, it's about peaking at the right time of the year, right? It's always about peaking during postseason. The Hoosier, both our men and our women are going to that one. There's 78 men's teams, all varsity teams from across the country. It is by far the best field that we will face. And our first goal is to just make cut.
Sure.
Because the top 8 out of 78 make match play.
Wow.
So if you make match play there, you've have already done something.
Yeah.
And it's been a while since our men have done that. Our ladies have done it several times. I think in the last 10 years, our ladies have won that event twice.
Okay.
And same thing on their side. There are 64 varsity teams, and they're pretty much the best 64 out there. So it really is a final test going into postseason play.
So it's going to be a big measuring stick weekend coming up for both of these teams in a couple of weeks, but the women have got a tune-up at the Flyer Classic coming up. You can follow the Jets online, of course, on our website, newmanjets.com. Billy Murphy, the head coach and Newman Athletics Hall of Famer, joining us here on the Jetcast. Thanks so much, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Next up, sophomore Brylee Prockish joins us on the show when we return to the Jetcast.
I have a little birthday message for you from someone, too.
I heard you really love basketball. You're a good shooter and a good dribbler. Happy birthday, MJ, and I hope you enjoy your day.
Thank you. You're welcome.
We're talking bowling this week on the Jetcast, and we're joined by Brylee Prockish, a sophomore out of Shawnee Heights High School. And Brylee, welcome into the show. It's always good to have a fellow Topeka on the show. Thanks so much for being here. Brylee, 186.2 average, a top 10 finish in the Jayhawk Collegiate Invite. What was working for you in that tournament for the team?
The chemistry, honestly. I mean, the chemistry was pretty nice. The team was so fluent with each other, and we all worked well. We worked hard together.
You've been on this team as part of the transition from the USBC into NCAA. What has the new style of competition been like, and what's that adjustment been like for you?
It was a big adjustment because you went from 2-day tournaments to 3 days, and that was a big adjustment. Bowling a lot more, seeing a lot more, and seeing different patterns was a lot different for me.
Of course,
personally.
talking about oil patterns in the lane, how did you make the adjustment to that? Do you have to kind of pace yourself? How do you kind of approach having such, bowling so many more matches and having such longer weekends in terms of the amount of time you have to spend at the lane?
Thankfully, we take 8 girls. I'll say that.
Okay, fair enough. What's it been like to travel to these new locales, and obviously you're seeing some new opponents as well. What's that been like for you?
It's been pretty cool, honestly. Like, everywhere we've been so far has been very nice, very pretty. Like, you've seen some places that are just like kind of not so good, but for the most part, they're really nice towns, and I love the teams around. It's more competitive there. It's higher level talent, and it's actually pushing you to be better.
Well, and the one thing that Coach did in the offseason to try to match that is to bring in Coach Kayla Bandy and bring her on as part of the squad. What's it been like? I know that she works heavily with the women's program. What's it been like to have her as part of the Jet coaching staff?
I've been working with her since last year, so I've gotten to see her a little bit more, but working with her is pretty nice. She's very up, straight forward with it, and she makes you work for it if you want to bowl.
What's it like to be led by Coach Murphy, a Newman Hall of Famer in this program?
Oh, boy.
No words for Coach?
No. He's pretty quiet, so, like, when I need someone that's, like, more, like, soft with it, like, more quiet with the tone of voice, I get brought into his office on the weekends. That's when I know I'm in trouble.
Well, and one thing that he said was that, you came in, I don't know if it was one of those when you got called to the principal's office or you just told them that, hey, you wanted to have a meeting, but he said that it was maybe one of those meetings in a weekend at his office where you said, hey, I want to be better, and what do I need to do? And it's kind of been that moment that has led you to the improvement. What did you learn about yourself in that moment that made you want to say, I need to do more, I want to do more to get the most out of the bowling career that I have and get as much as I can out of this bowling career?
I think the turning point for me was sitting there watching everyone else around me have fun and get better, and I was like, why am I not there? What is the drive that I need to have to be there? And having that conversation with them was very sincere, and it brought my home life into it, and it's brought everything around me, and I need to work harder in life for it.
What have you focused on mechanically in your game since that conversation that's led you to have the better results that you've been able to achieve?
Mindset. I need to have a mindset. We've been talking about mind gym a lot in the classroom with our team, and you need to have a better mindset where you are, where you want to be in life, and that's helped me a lot work towards things.
Well, we've heard Coach Murphy talk about that so many times over the years on this program. I know that you guys have had that as well. In terms of that mind gym, that mind space, how do you have to use your off weeks to, kind of reset that and get recalibrated so that you go into these events refreshed and ready to attack?
I spend my weekends still bowling. I do a lot of mental recapping of what I've done over the weeks, what are the tournaments like, get in the different settings, and put myself into certain settings of, okay, this is what I'm working on, okay, this is what I'm doing in tournament. Like, I split my mind into 2 different ways to see what type of player I need to be that day.
So you guys have the Flyer Classic coming up. What are your goals for yourself? What are your goals for your team? And is this something that the team has kind of talked about? You guys in the first ever year of having NCAA bowling at Newman, 50 and 25, you guys have the chance, being ranked now in the top 15 of the country, some opportunities to do some really special things in year one of a program that maybe a lot of, not that Newman Women's Bowling is a traditional first-year program that's just being built from the ground up. You guys have achieved a lot in previous seasons as well, but a chance to do some pretty incredible things in year one. What are the goals that you've set for yourself, and have you guys talked about any team goals?
We've talked a lot about team goals. We've been talking about them all year. Communication, the biggest one, telling each other what to do, what they see out there, being responsive, being supportive, being in the moment with the team is the biggest one, I feel, and having a connection with each of us, because without the chemistry, there's nothing with that team.
Once again, the Jets are in action at the Flyer Classic next, and then heading up for the Hoosier, and the postseason is going to be here before you know it. A former Thunderbird from Shawnee Heights High School, Brylee Prockish. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
We'll have Coach Meese on to wrap things up with Newman Wrestling right after this on the Jetcast. Wrapping up the Jetcast here on this week by talking some wrestling. It's getting down to the end of the wrestling season very quickly. And we're joined here by a fourth-year assistant coach. Maybe a little bit familiar. You've probably seen this guy before in a wrestling singlet for the Jets, a former freshman of the year, an NCAA championship, two-time All-American, and a three-time state finalist with Andale High School, and a state title as a senior on the mat there for the Indians. Tyler Meese joins us here on the Jetcast to wrap things up and talk about the Newman Wrestlers getting set to head into yet another conference event. Coach, appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, 30-15 win last time out for you guys over Labette County Community College. How important was that win to get some confidence going into your last match of the season against Central Missouri?
Yeah, it was a good match to get. Obviously, first dual win of the year, so it was good to kind of get on the board.
Sure.
Guys wrestled well, and it's always a fun event doing it out there at the casino at the Battle of the Belt, so all the little kids get to watch. So
how different is that with that? You know, it's more of a stadium environment. Obviously, you know, as you know, when the lights are down here at Newman and it's 1v1 and the crowd is behind you guys, you know, Fugate Gymnasium is an incredible atmosphere especially when you guys are wrestling well and the wrestlers give the crowd, you know, something to get behind. You know, I remember the NCAA championships a few years ago that you guys hosted, and you guys had several big-time wrestlers in that one. And then a couple of years ago when you guys beat Fort Hays State, that was such an impressive atmosphere. But what is it like being out at the casino?
Yeah, I mean, nothing can really replace the spotlight here at Newman, but there at the casino, it's a fun time because, I mean, all these kids that look up to these college wrestlers and coaches as well, and it's a fun time having all those kids around and cheering for what could be their future college. So
I don't get to make the rounds in terms of wrestling like you guys do. Is Fugate Gymnasium unique in that regard, that all the lights are off and it's just the spotlight?
Yeah. Our last duel at Fort Hays, they have a spotlight,
okay,
but it's a little more lit up on the exterior. Sure. But, yeah, nothing's quite like – it almost feels like the state finals match
sure,
up in Salina where – you're spotlighted out. So
awesome. So in terms of building confidence, you guys had several wrestlers that won, several by pinfall. Who were the wrestlers that you felt really impressed you and really needed that win to build up some confidence to try to make a push here in the end of the season?
Well, one that really stands out is Jace Fisher. He was at 165 all year, and he just made the move down to 157. So that was his first match at 157. So he's feeling really good, and obviously his match didn't last very long. But I mean, all the freshmen just getting a good dual win is nice, and being able to get on the board. So
you guys had a defeat in the previous MIAA duel against Fort Hays State, but it was much closer than the Nebraska-Kearney match. How do you feel like that maybe shows some growth for your team as you guys have continued to move forward in this season, wrestling in such a difficult conference?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have some matches go our way in the Fort Hays. I feel like we should have been able to be a lot closer, if not win that duel. So, I mean, compared to Kearney, yeah, it was closer, but we expect more.
Well, and you guys, you've talked about that. Coach Smith has been on here to talk about that you do expect more. But, this conference definitely requires that you show up and you kind of have to raise your level, not just week by week, but, match by match and even period by period because of how difficult this conference is. Talk about the overwhelming difficulty and how strong your opponents are in this conference.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we have, if not the toughest conference in the nation. I mean, you got UCO, number 1 in the nation. I think Kearney's number 3. UCM's up there as well. Hayes is down, 13, 14, but yeah, it's we're
21st when the Jets wrestled them. Obviously,
21st.
Yeah, obviously they've moved up a little bit since then. I wanted to ask you as well because you wrestled here and then obviously have stuck around here in this area. You're from this area of Kansas. What about wrestling made you want to kind of stay involved even now that you're done doing the actual wrestling? But what made you decide that getting into coaching was how you wanted to keep giving back to the sport?
Yeah, I mean, I've been wrestling since I was 4 years old, 4.5, so I don't know. It's
hard
just
to quit.
Yeah, it's hard to walk away from something like that. But, no, I mean, it's a good way to give back and honestly have a calling to give back to these guys and continue to help out with the sport of wrestling all around. So
do you feel like your role on this team? Do you have like specific wrestlers you work with? Do you work with I know that we talked about before we came on, during the matches, Coach Smith's kind of behind the scenes during the actual match, looking on, always staring in there, hunched over, and then you, Coach Fisher, and you guys and Cameron, they're up there, and you guys are yelling, and you guys are on the edge of your seat. You can barely stay seated. What do you feel like is your role on match day with this team, and then also in the wrestling room when you guys are rolling around on the mat?
Yeah, so in the room, obviously, more of like a technician. Sometimes I'll hop in with the guys and we'll get a drill in, just kind of giving them more of that, all-American feel.
Sure.
And where they need to be. So, and then on match day, more of like I'm in the action. I'm usually kind of wrestling in my seat with them. So match day is a lot of fun.
They ought to get something so that your chair will stay stationary.
Yeah.
You guys they're always moving around down there. When you get into the mix with the guys a little bit, do you feel like it's like if I still had some eligibility left, I could probably be pretty good at this.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what everyone always says, like you don't reach your max or your prime stage until you're like 27 to 32 or something like that. So all the guys, I tell them how old I feel after I'm wrestling. They're like, "You're in your prime." I'm like, "No, I'm not. My back hurts."
How impressive does it make when you see these guys like Jordan Burroughs is a guy that comes to mind who was legendary at Nebraska and won Olympics, and but you see guys. I mean, heck, let's stay closer to home with Noel Torres trying to be an Olympian and represent his country in the Olympics and still trying to grind things out. And they're getting into that prime age of being well past collegiate age at this point.
Right. Yeah. You just have to train a different way, I would think. I mean, they're not getting in as many matches as these young 18, 19-year-old kids, but yeah, I'm sure they're doing it right. So
long term, is something you feel like you want to stick with in terms of coaching?
Oh yeah, I love it. So
is that head coaching? You think at some point might be in your future? Is that something that you've thought about? Maybe at some point you want to have your own program?
Yeah, definitely something I've thought about. Definitely a goal of mine is be able to to kind of go all in on it.
Do you feel like, I mean, you've only have you ever coached any other age level?
I've done individuals with younger kids and done.
But from a team perspective, so you've coached pretty much all. Like, how early do you start them? Like, well, you said you started at 4, so
yeah. At that age, though, they're just playing tag.
Fair enough. Well, so I mean, if you've coached what? So I'm guessing 5 all the way up to senior in college, obviously. What's the age group that you think you want to coach?
Yeah, college is definitely where I want to be. It's just a different level. I have more fun with college.
In that case, since you want to be at the college level, what's it like learning from Coach Smith and Coach Fisher about what it takes to be a college coach?
Oh, it's a lot of fun. I think Coach Fisher has about 10 years experience, and obviously Coach Smith's been around since the dawn. So no, he's been here 15 years or so since the program started. So it's fun to listen back on what the program's been through and where it's been and what they've gone through. So.
Well, believe it or not, I believe on Tuesday this week, speaking of the dawn for Coach Smith, I believe that it's been a lot of dawns because he had another birthday this week. So happy birthday, Coach.
I actually told him I was going to give him a shout out. So happy birthday, Coach Smith.
Happy birthday, Coach Smith. I'm sure he'll really appreciate that. So final question for you. You've got the Mules coming up. Last duel of the regular season. It's a Monday night matchup in Warrensburg, 7 o'clock against Central Missouri. You mentioned that they're a team that's kind of working up the rankings a little bit. So give us the scout on the Mules and how do you guys need to approach Central Missouri to try to upset them on their home mat?
Right. Yeah, they have a few nationally ranked kids, I believe. Should be a good matchup where we're at in the weight. So just staying stingy and getting the points when we need them and kind of fluster him up a little bit. So
I said that was the last question, but when you're in this position, as long as I have been, I get to lie if I have to. You got a week off after that, and then Super Regionals in Edmond. So my true last question to you is: once you have that match on Monday, you'll have since that match is on a Monday, you're going to have kind of almost like an extra week to get rusted up for the Super Regional. How do you guys attack that time between the last meet of the regular season and getting everybody in tip-top shape for Super Regional in Edmond?
Yeah, so usually we kind of bring practices down as far as the length of time and keep the intensity where it needs to be and just getting these guys rested up. A couple days off helps as well, and just getting ready to show out at regionals. So.
And the goal you heard from Coach Smith all year is to get back to the national tournament. The Jets are going to try to do that. Next up for them, Monday at Central Missouri. It's a February 13th, 7 p.m. is when the lights will drop. I'm assuming they're probably not a spotlight at Central Missouri, but if there is, it'll be on for the Jets and the Mules coming up on February 13th. First appearance, I believe, on the Jetcast as a coach. Coach Tyler Mees in his 4th year helping out with the Jet Wrestling program. Great job, Coach. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Next week, we'll be back on the show, and we are talking some tennis next week. So that is coming up with us. We've got triathlon coming up as well here in the coming weeks, and obviously more basketball on the show next week. So until then, Blake Cripps in Wichita saying, go Jets.